Imagine this. A young black boy, brutally assaulted by racist cops who thought they could get away with it. They saw him as just another victim, someone who couldn't fight back. But they had no idea who his father was, because this wasn't just any father. This was a highly trained, elite military operative, a man who had taken down warlords, infiltrated enemy strongholds, and survived the most dangerous battlefields in the world, and now he's bringing that war to them. This is a story of justice, revenge, and the kind of karma that hits like a bullet. Stay locked in, because things are about to get explosive. Fire, where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments below. Speech balloon, what would you do if someone hurt your child like this? Let's talk about it, and before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss more stories like this. Now, let's get into it. The night air hung thick over Huntsville, Alabama. The dim glow of streetlights barely illuminated the cracked pavement of a rundown neighborhood. It was past 10 p.m., and Malik Carter, a 17-year-old high school senior, was walking home from his part-time job at a local diner. He had earbuds in, listening to music, lost in his own thoughts. He was just 3 blocks from home when a black and white police cruiser rolled up beside him, its tires screeching slightly as it came to a stop. "Hey, you! Stop right there!" A voice barked through the cruiser's loudspeaker. Malik froze, pulling out his earbuds and looking toward the car. 2 white officers, Sergeant Travis Wilkes and Officer Brett Coleman, stepped out. Wilkes was a burly man with a square jaw and an unmistakable air of arrogance. Coleman was younger, but his eyes carried the same ruthless cruelty. Malik frowned. "Is something wrong, officers?" Wilkes smirked. "You match the description of a suspect we're looking for." Malik knew exactly where this was going. He had heard stories about these cops, stories about how they harassed young black men for sport. He sighed. "I just got off work. I have my ID right here." But before Malik could reach for his wallet, Coleman lunged. The cop grabbed Malik by the collar and slammed him against the hood of the cruiser. "Hands behind your back. Now," Coleman ordered. "What the hell? I didn't do anything," Malik protested. Wilkes laughed. "That's what they all say." Malik felt his wrists yanked behind him, and then a sharp pain as Coleman twisted his arm at an unnatural angle. "Stop resisting," Wilkes sneered. Although Malik wasn't resisting at all, Coleman delivered a knee to Malik's ribs, forcing a pained grunt from him. Malik gasped, struggling to breathe. A small crowd had gathered, neighbors standing on porches, some pulling out their phones to record. "Y'all see this?" an older woman yelled. "This boy ain't done nothing." But Wilkes and Coleman didn't care. Wilkes leaned in close, his breath hot against Malik's ear. "You don't get it, do you, boy? We run this town." And then, as if the night couldn't get worse, Wilkes pulled out his baton. Malik barely had time to brace before the baton came down hard across his back. A second strike landed on his thigh. Malik screamed in agony. The crowd erupted in protests. "That's enough. You're gonna kill him." Wilkes was enjoying himself. "You're lucky we don't put a bullet in you." Coleman laughed. "Yeah, maybe next time." They dragged Malik toward the cruiser, shoving him into the back seat. The pain was unbearable. His ribs screamed, his vision blurred. As the cruiser sped away, Malik barely managed to pull his phone from his pocket with trembling hands. He pressed one number. It rang twice before a deep, commanding voice answered. "Malik." Malik could barely whisper. "Dad. Help." And then, everything went black. 15 miles away at a private military training facility, Commander Nathaniel Carter was going through his nightly routine, training a squad of elite operatives. A seasoned Delta Force officer, Carter had seen action in countless Black Ops missions across the world. He was a man feared by enemies and respected by his own men, but when his phone buzzed and he saw his son's name, a cold dread gripped his chest. His instincts kicked in immediately. He answered, "Malik." There was no response. Just the muffled sound of movement. Then the call cut off. Nathaniel stiffened. "Something was wrong, Lieutenant," he barked, turning to one of his men, James "Ghost" Matthews, a former Navy SEAL sniper. "Yes, sir. I need a trace on a phone. Now." Ghost's eyes sharpened. He knew that tone. It meant something serious had just happened. Nathaniel's heart pounded as Ghost typed rapidly into a secure system. pulling up the phone's last known GPS location. Within seconds, a red dot appeared on the map. Got it, Ghost said. Your son's signal just went dead near the Huntsville Police Department. Nathaniel gritted his teeth. He had taught Malik everything about handling himself in bad situations. But against dirty cops. That was another level. Nathaniel turned to his hand-picked strike team, men who had taken down warlords, drug cartels, and terrorist cells. Gear up, he growled. We're going hunting. The team sprang into action. Weapons were checked, vests strapped on, silencers attached to deadly rifles. Ghost slung his sniper rifle over his back. What's the plan? Nathaniel's eyes were pure steel. First, we find my son. Then, we deal with the men who put their hands on him. Ghost smirked. Somebody's about to have a really bad night. Nathaniel led his team out to a blacked-out SUV. Climbing into the driver's seat, he gunned the engine. The hunt had begun. Inside the police station, Malik sat in a holding cell. His body ached. His ribs throbbed. He knew his father would come for him. But he didn't know when. Wilkes and Coleman sat outside the cell, smirking at him. You'll learn your place, Wilkes said. Just another punk who thinks the world owes him something. Malik's eyes locked onto them with quiet fury. You two have no idea what you've just done, he said, his voice hoarse but steady. Coleman scoffed. Oh yeah? And what's that, tough guy? Malik leaned forward, a ghost of a smile forming despite the pain. You'll see. Nathaniel Carter and his team were 2 minutes out. Inside the SUV, he loaded a Glock 19, checked the suppressor, and chambered a round. Ghost radioed in. Thermal scans show about 8 officers inside the building. 2 guards at the entrance. Nathaniel nodded. Gentlemen, he said, his voice dark and unforgiving, we take them fast. We take them hard. The SUV accelerated, roaring toward its destination. Justice was coming, and it would be delivered at gunpoint. The SUV came to a silent stop half a block away from the Huntsville Police Department. The dim streetlights barely reflected off its blacked-out windows, giving it a ghostly presence in the night. Nathaniel Carter gripped the steering wheel, his jaw clenched so tight it felt like steel. His son was inside that building, beaten, locked up, and waiting for him, and he was coming. Ghost, what's the entry plan? Nathaniel asked, his voice calm but deadly. Ghost, seated in the passenger seat, scanned the blueprints of the police station on a tablet. Front entrance has 2 armed officers. 2 more at the reception desk inside. Holding cells are in the back. Surveillance room is upstairs. He looked up. We take out the cameras first. Then we move in. Nathaniel nodded. Rook, Jamal, circle around the back. Take out any patrol units before they call for backup. 2 men, former Marine Force recon operatives, slipped out of the SUV and disappeared into the shadows. Nathaniel pulled a suppressed MP7 from under his seat. Let's move. Inside the police station, Wilkes and Coleman were still smirking at Malik, completely unaware of the storm heading their way. Maybe we should have broken his arm, Coleman sneered. Teach him some real respect. Wilkes chuckled, leaning back in his chair. Kid's lucky. If this were 10 years ago, we'd have left him in a ditch somewhere. Malik kept his head down, but inside, he was grinning. They had no idea what was coming for them. Then, the station lights flickered. For a split second, Coleman's smirk faltered. What the hell? The monitors in the reception room cut to static. A voice crackled over the radio of one of the officers at the front desk. Base, we have movement outside. Possible intrude. Silence. Then, the front doors exploded inward. Ghost moved first. Silent, precise. His suppressed sniper rifle hissed twice, and the 2 front desk officers dropped instantly, their weapons clattering to the floor. Nathaniel strode in behind him, his MP7 raised. The 2 officers at the entrance barely had time to react before Jamal and Rook took them out from behind, snapping their necks with brutal efficiency. 4 down, Ghost muttered. 6 left. Nathaniel moved fast. He took the left hallway, Ghost covering his flank. They cleared 2 more rooms, dropping officers with ruthless precision. In the holding cell area, alarms began blaring. Wilkes bolted to his feet, his hand flying to his gun. What the hell is going on? Coleman was already moving. I don't know, but we gotta. The lights went out completely, and then, the scream started. 2 minutes earlier, outside the station, Jamal and Rook spotted a parked patrol car, 2 officers inside. "Let's make this quick," Jamal whispered. Rook nodded. They moved like shadows. Rook came up on the driver's side. Tapping the glass with the barrel of his Glock 19, the cop inside turned, only to see the last thing he ever would. Pft. Pft. 2 silenced shots through the windshield. The driver slumped forward, blood splattering the dashboard. The passenger officer fumbled for his radio. Too slow, Jamal ripped the door open and yanked him out, driving a knife into his throat. The gurgling stopped within seconds. Patrols neutralized. Rook whispered into his earpiece. Nathaniel's voice came back. "Move in." Back inside the station, Wilkes grabbed the keys to the cells. "We're moving the kid. Now." Coleman yanked Malik up by his injured arm, making him cry out in pain. "Shut up." Coleman barked. Slamming him against the bars, Wilkes turned toward the door, just in time to see it explode off its hinges. Nathaniel Carter walked in like death itself. For the first time in his life, Wilkes felt real fear. What the F? Ghost fired first. His suppressed bullet punched through Coleman's shoulder, sending him crashing to the ground. Screaming, Wilkes went for his gun. Nathaniel was faster. With a swift motion, he slammed the butt of his MP7 into Wilkes' face, sending the man sprawling. Wilkes crawled backward, blood streaming from his broken nose. "Who the hell are you?" Nathaniel's gaze was cold, merciless. "I'm the father of the boy you just beat." Coleman, still on the ground, groaned in pain. You don't know who you're messing with." Nathaniel stepped forward and kicked Coleman in the ribs, sending him rolling onto his back. "You have no idea who I am." Wilkes scrambled for his gun. Big mistake. Nathaniel fired once, the silenced shot tearing through Wilkes' kneecap. The cop screamed, clutching his shattered leg. Malik, still in the cell, stared at his father, his eyes wide. "Dad?" Nathaniel's expression softened slightly as he looked at his son. "You okay?" Malik nodded weakly. They beat me up pretty bad." Nathaniel clenched his jaw, turning back to the officers. His hand tightened around his gun. Ghost's voice came over the radio. "We've got more units inbound. 3 minutes out." Nathaniel nodded. That was plenty of time. He knelt in front of Wilkes, gripping the officer's bloodied uniform. "I should put you down like the dog you are." Wilkes whimpered, his face twisted in agony. Please don't kill me." Nathaniel stared at him for a long moment. Then, he stood up and turned to Malik. "You ready to go, son?" Malik nodded. "Yeah." Nathaniel gestured to Jamal, who stepped forward and unlocked the cell. Malik stepped out, wincing in pain, but he kept his head high. Nathaniel put a protective arm around his son and turned toward the exit. Ghost covered their 6. "We need to move. Backup's almost here." Nathaniel gave one last look at the broken cops on the floor. Then, he and his team disappeared into the night. Justice had been served, but the real reckoning was still coming. The black SUV roared through the dark streets of Huntsville, weaving through back alleys and side roads to avoid detection. Nathaniel sat in the back seat with his son, Malik, his arm protectively wrapped around him. Ghost drove, his knuckles tight on the wheel. "We've got about 10 minutes before HPD figures out which way we went." Jamal, riding shotgun, reloaded his Glock. "We should have put those bastards down for good." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "Not yet." His eyes were cold. Calculating, Malik groaned, shifting in his seat. "Dad, my ribs hurt." Nathaniel carefully lifted his son's shirt. Bruises and welts covered his torso. His fists clenched so tightly his knuckles went white. "They'll pay for this," he murmured. Ghost glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "What's the plan, boss?" Nathaniel exhaled sharply. "We need to get Malik somewhere safe." Then, his eyes burned with vengeance. "We take down the entire Huntsville PD," Jamal smirked. "Now you're talking." Just then, Rook's voice crackled over the radio. "We've got company. 4 patrol cars, moving fast. They're tracking us." Ghost cursed under his breath. "How the hell did they find us?" Nathaniel looked out the back window. Flashing red and blue lights were closing in fast. "They must have put a tracker on the SUV," Ghost muttered. Nathaniel's mind worked like a machine. "Jamal, take Malik and switch vehicles at the safe house." "Ghost, you're with me." Jamal nodded. He reached over and popped open a secret compartment beneath the dashboard, revealing a second set of keys. "Gonna miss this ride," he muttered. Nathaniel turned to his son. "Malik, listen to me. You go with Jamal. No matter what happens, you don't stop. Understand?" Malik hesitated, his eyes filled with worry. "But, Dad, do you understand?" Nathaniel's voice was firm, commanding. Malik swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." Ghost suddenly jerked the wheel, taking a hard right down an abandoned industrial road. The cops followed, their sirens screaming in the night. Rook's voice came through again. "Backup's 2 minutes out." Nathaniel checked his watch. 2 minutes was too long, they had to act now. Ghost, drive them straight into a trap. Ghost smirked. "Already on it." He slammed the accelerator, taking another sharp turn down a narrow street. The patrol cars followed blindly, their drivers desperate to keep up, and that's when the ambush hit. A massive explosion tore through the night as Rook detonated a roadside IED, flipping the lead police car onto its roof. The second patrol unit swerved wildly, slamming into a power pole. The last 2 cars skidded to a stop, their doors flying open as cops spilled out, weapons drawn. Nathaniel was already moving. He kicked open the SUV door, rolling into a crouch as bullets whizzed past his head. Ghost dropped 2 officers with precise shots to the chest, their bodies slamming against the pavement. Jamal shoved Malik out the other side of the SUV, keeping him low. "Stay down, kid." The remaining cops opened fire, their bullets sparking against metal. Nathaniel moved like a ghost. He zigzagged through the darkness, popping off silenced shots, each bullet finding its mark. One cop screamed as he hit the ground, clutching his leg. Another crumpled instantly, a hole between his eyes. The last officer tried to retreat. Bad mistake. Rook appeared behind him, wrapping an arm around his neck. With a brutal twist, a sickening snap, the fight was over in seconds. Nathaniel looked down at the lifeless bodies. His face void of emotion. "They underestimated us," he muttered. Ghost chuckled, reloading his rifle. "They won't make that mistake again." Jamal signaled from the other side of the SUV. "We need to go, now." Nathaniel turned to Malik, his expression softening. "Go with Jamal. I'll see you soon." Malik hesitated, his eyes flickering to the bloodied scene around them. Then, he nodded. Jamal grabbed Malik's arm and led him toward a second getaway car, parked in the shadows of a nearby warehouse. Nathaniel watched them disappear. Then, he turned back to the burning wreckage of the police cars, his eyes dark with vengeance. This was just the beginning. The real war was coming. Nathaniel and Ghost moved quickly, vanishing into the darkness before more cops could arrive. The ambush had been swift, brutal, and efficient, but it was only a small taste of what was coming. Ghost glanced at his watch. Jamal and Malik should be at the safe house by now. Nathaniel nodded, keeping his eyes scanning the area. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. "We need to move," he muttered. They sprinted through the industrial district, sticking to the shadows, using their training to avoid cameras and patrols. As they rounded a corner, Ghost froze. "Hold up." Nathaniel followed his gaze. 3 police SUVs were parked outside a rundown warehouse. Red and blue lights flashing. Officers in tactical gear moved quickly, securing the area. Nathaniel's gut twisted. "They found one of our safe houses." Ghost clenched his jaw. "Think Malik's still in there?" "No," Nathaniel said immediately. "Jamal wouldn't have stayed this long." Just then, gunfire erupted inside the warehouse. Nathaniel and Ghost reacted instantly, pulling their weapons and moving in. A cop burst out the side entrance, a bullet hole in his vest. He barely had time to react before Nathaniel put 2 rounds in his chest. They slipped inside, moving low and fast. Inside, the warehouse was a battlefield. Jamal was barricaded behind a stack of crates, firing his pistol at 3 advancing officers. Malik was crouched beside him, wide-eyed, his hands shaking. Nathaniel saw red. He raised his weapon and dropped one cop instantly. Ghost took out the second with a precise shot to the throat. The last officer turned to fire. Too slow. Jamal's bullet caught him right between the eyes. Silence. Jamal exhaled, glancing at Malik. "You okay, kid?" Malik nodded, but he looked shaken. "Too much too fast." Nathaniel moved to his son, gripping his shoulder. "We're getting out of here." Ghost peered outside. More sirens. More headlights. "They're bringing the whole damn department," he muttered. Jamal ejected his magazine, loading a fresh one. We taking the fight to them? Nathaniel's gaze hardened. We don't run. We end this. The team took positions, reloading weapons, setting up a kill zone near the entrance. The first wave of cops stormed in, 5 officers in full riot gear. Nathaniel and Ghost opened fire, dropping 3 instantly. Jamal tossed a flashbang, stunning the last 2. Nathaniel moved in like a ghost, snapping one officer's neck, then putting a bullet in the other's head before he could recover. More cops poured in, bullets ripped through the air, punching into crates, shattering metal. Ghost took cover, firing in controlled bursts. Jamal went low, weaving between cover, popping off headshots. Nathaniel fought like a man possessed. Every shot was precise. Every movement lethal. The cops were trained, but they weren't trained for this. One officer rushed forward with a shotgun. Ghost put a round in his knee, then a second in his head. Another tried flanking from the side. Nathaniel took him out without even looking. The last officer tried running. Jamal's bullet caught him in the back. Silence fell. The warehouse was a graveyard of bodies and bullet casings. Nathaniel turned to his team. We leave now. They slipped out the back, vanishing before reinforcements arrived. Nathaniel didn't look back. This wasn't over, not even close. Nathaniel, Ghost, Jamal, and Malik moved through the darkness, their steps silent and precise. The gunfight at the warehouse had put every cop in Huntsville on high alert. Choppers circled above, searchlights cutting through the night. Ghost cursed. We need to get underground. They'll have checkpoints up in minutes. Nathaniel's mind worked fast. He knew the city's layout like a battlefield map. We head to the old subway tunnels. We can lose them there. Jamal kept a firm grip on Malik's arm. Kid, you good? Malik, still shaken from the shootout, nodded weakly. But his hands were trembling. Nathaniel clenched his jaw. His son had been forced into a world he never wanted him to see. And the people responsible were going to pay. They reached a sewer grate behind an abandoned gas station. Ghost pried it open, and one by one, they dropped into the darkness below. The tunnels were damp, the air thick with the stench of rot and rust. Jamal pulled out a flashlight, keeping it low. How far are we going? Nathaniel led the way, his instincts sharp. There's an exit near the old freight station. That'll take us out past city limits. As they moved, the distant hum of sirens echoed through the tunnels. They're searching everywhere, Ghost muttered. Nathaniel nodded. Let them search. We're already ghosts. They reached an intersection in the tunnels, and that's when Malik froze. He grabbed Nathaniel's arm, his breathing sharp. Dad. Someone's here. Nathaniel's instincts went on high alert. He heard it, 2 footsteps. Multiple, ambush, Ghost whispered. Jamal killed the flashlight. The tunnel went pitch black. Nathaniel raised his weapon, focusing on the sounds. Then, a red laser sight flickered in the darkness. A voice rang out. We've got you surrounded. Drop your weapons. Nathaniel smirked. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Before the cops could react, Ghost tossed a flashbang. The tunnel erupted in white light and Nathaniel struck fast. He lunged forward, knocking a cop's rifle aside, putting 2 rounds in his chest before he even hit the ground. Jamal moved like lightning, knifing one officer in the throat, spinning to shoot another in the gut. Ghost unloaded a full clip, dropping 3 more before ducking behind cover. The last cop tried to run, but Nathaniel was faster. He grabbed the officer, slamming him into the tunnel wall. The cop gasped in horror as Nathaniel's face came into view. Please. Nathaniel pressed the muzzle of his pistol to the officer's forehead. You made a mistake coming down here. The cop's body slumped to the ground. Malik stared at his father, eyes wide. Nathaniel saw it, the moment his son realized just how deadly he truly was. Jamal wiped blood from his knife. That was just a scouting team. More will come. Nathaniel reloaded. Then we kill them, too. They pushed deeper into the tunnels, leaving behind nothing but bodies. Above ground, Huntsville PD was panicking. Nathaniel and his team weren't fugitives, they were hunters, and the hunt had just begun. Nathaniel, Ghost, Jamal, and Malik emerged from the subway tunnels just outside city limits, slipping into the dense woods. The night air was thick with tension, but they moved like shadows, silent and lethal. We need to strike first, Nathaniel said, scanning the area. Before they regroup. Ghost nodded. They'll be expecting us to run. They won't expect us to go straight at them. Jamal checked his ammo. So what's the plan? We hitting a station? Nathaniel's eyes hardened. No. We're going after the ones who ordered this. The cops who attacked Malik weren't acting alone. Someone higher up had given the order, thinking they could beat a black kid without consequence. They had no idea who they had crossed. Nathaniel had spent his life toppling regimes, eliminating warlords, and bringing down terrorists. Now, he was bringing war to Huntsville PD. Their target was Deputy Chief Raymond Holt, the man who had covered up Malik's assault and sent SWAT teams after them. He was holed up at a police command center in an abandoned steel mill on the edge of town. Nathaniel and his team moved in, scoping out the area from a ridge. 3 armored SWAT trucks sat near the entrance. Dozens of cops patrolled with rifles and body armor. Looks like a war zone, Ghost muttered. Nathaniel smirked. Good. That means we don't have to hold back. Jamal cracked his knuckles. Let's get to work. They moved in fast. Striking with military precision, Ghost sniped the first guard from a rooftop, his silencer whispering death. Nathaniel and Jamal crept up behind 2 patrolmen, silent kills, blades flashing in the dark. Then, a police SUV erupted in flames as Ghost detonated a charge, throwing officers into chaos. Nathaniel and Jamal rushed the entrance, guns blazing. A cop turned to fire. Nathaniel dropped him with a headshot. Jamal weaved between cover, unloading rounds into the officers scrambling for position. Ghost took down 3 more from above, the red glow of his scope painting death across the battlefield. Malik, crouched behind cover, watched his father move, a force of nature. A weapon unleashed, and then, reinforcements arrived. 3 SWAT trucks roared to life, their turret gunners unleashing a storm of bullets. Nathaniel dove behind a concrete barrier as rounds shredded the ground. Ghost. Take out those turrets. Ghost was already on it. From his position, he fired 3 perfect shots, each one slamming into a turret gunner's head. The trucks went silent. Jamal tossed a grenade under one of the vehicles. The blast sent it flipping through the air, crashing into the second truck. The cops inside never stood a chance. Inside the command center, Nathaniel stormed into the steel mill, gun raised. Raymond Holt was inside, flanked by 2 officers. The moment Holt saw Nathaniel, his face drained of color. Nathaniel fired 2 shots. The officers beside Holt collapsed, blood splattering the walls. Holt staggered back, hands shaking. Nathaniel grabbed him by the throat, slamming him against a desk. You ordered the attack on my son, Nathaniel growled. Now you answer for it. Holt gasped. I didn't. Nathaniel drew his knife, pressing it against Holt's throat. The cops who did it, Nathaniel said. Names. Holt sobbed. Please, Nathaniel pressed harder. Names. Holt broke instantly, he spilled everything. The cops who had beaten Malik. The ones who had laughed about it. The officers who had tried to cover it up. All of them. Nathaniel stepped back, letting him go. Holt collapsed, gasping for breath. Ghost stepped in. What now? Nathaniel's eyes were cold as steel. Now, he said, we finish this. Nathaniel stood over Deputy Chief Raymond Holt, watching him tremble in fear. The once powerful officer was now nothing more than a sniveling coward, begging for his life. You think I'm going to let you walk away from this? Nathaniel's voice was cold, unforgiving. Holt's lips quivered. Please. I was just following orders. Nathaniel pressed his gun against Holt's forehead. You gave the order to attack my son. Holt's tears fell as he shook his head desperately. It wasn't personal. We didn't know who you were. Nathaniel smirked. You do now. Holt's body hit the ground, blood pooling beneath him. Ghost stepped forward, gun raised. We're not done yet. The cops who beat Malik, where are they? Nathaniel wiped the blood off his blade. They're next. With Holt's confession, they had every dirty cop's name. Nathaniel, Ghost, Jamal, and Malik moved like death itself, striking down every officer involved. One by one, the guilty cops fell. At a bar, 2 officers who had laughed while Malik was beaten were gunned down where they Saturday. At a precinct, a sergeant responsible for covering up the assault found his office turned into a war zone, his men slaughtered, his weapons useless against the ghosts hunting him. In a parking lot, the very cop who had thrown the first punch at Malik was dragged from his car, screaming as Nathaniel ended him with a single, brutal shot. Word spread fast. The Huntsville PD was in chaos. Nathaniel wasn't running. He was wiping them out. By dawn, only one target remained, Chief Leonard Briggs. The man at the top. The one who had allowed the corruption to spread, Nathaniel and his team stormed the precinct, cutting through the last of Briggs's men like a blade through flesh. Gunfire exploded through the halls. Ghost took down a squad with grenade fire, turning the stairwell into a pile of rubble and corpses. Jamal snapped a cop's neck, taking his rifle and mowing down the ones trying to ambush them. Malik, no longer afraid, held a pistol with steady hands. Covering his father's back, they reached the chief's office. Briggs was inside. Cowering behind his desk, he raised a pistol, but his hands shook too much to aim. Nathaniel kicked the gun away, grabbed Briggs by the collar, and threw him across the room. The chief crashed into a bookshelf, groaning. "You made a mistake," Nathaniel growled, standing over him. "You thought I was just another black man you could step on." Briggs spat blood. "You're a damn terrorist." Nathaniel laughed. "No. I'm the consequence of your actions." Briggs lunged for a hidden knife, but Nathaniel was faster. One gunshot, Briggs collapsed, his body twitching. It was over. The entire Huntsville PD was in ruins. The corrupt officers were dead, the precincts were burning. Nathaniel turned to his team. "We're done here." Ghost nodded. Jamal smirked. Malik looked at his father with a new understanding. Nathaniel had fought wars for his country. Now, he had fought one for his son. As they disappeared into the shadows, Huntsville would never forget the night a father avenged his child, and no cop would ever dare touch Malik again. Wow. What a story. From the moment those cops laid hands on the wrong kid, they had no idea the storm that was coming for them. Justice was served, and karma hit hard. Fire, what was your favorite moment in this story? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss another powerful story like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay strong.